Hey, it's Jason Creel. Wanted to propose a situation to you and get your feedback on what to do, and then I'll give my suggestion. But what do you do in the situation when the customer thinks that he or she knows more than you do as the lawn care professional? Now, I don't want that, you got to consider the fact that there might be actually some customers out there who do know more than you. And so those are a challenging situation. And but I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm talking about the ones who think they know more than you when it's obvious in your mind that they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so let me give you an example. So let's say you're cutting grass and you have a situation where the customer comes out, let's say it's middle of summer, the grass is tall and the weeds are even taller. Okay, the weeds are growing so fast and the person doesn't want to have to cut the grass as often as the weeds are growing. So, you got this thick grass, but you got a lot of weeds. So the customer comes out and they say, hey, here's what I want you to do. I want you to cut that grass really low because I'm tired of having to cut it so often, or you having to pay you to cut it so often. I believe if we cut it real low, that way the weeds won't grow back so fast. We won't have to cut it so often. And you're in your mind, you start thinking, well, you know what? If I cut that grass really low, I'm basically scalping it in the middle of the summer. I'm not only gonna cut the weeds short, but they're gonna be fine. I'm gonna cause some damage to the grass. One, it's gonna be brown because I've cut all the green out of it. Two, it may take a while to recover, where those weeds are gonna recover real fast. So in your mind, you're thinking, this is not a good idea. Okay, that's one example. Another example I think of with a situation where I find some people just absolutely in love with their irrigation system. That is the passion of their life. They paid, it's like people say, I paid whatever, how many ever thousands of dollars to have this thing on, so I want to watch it run, so they've got that irrigation and they're running that thing every day for 30 minutes plus. And you walk out there and you're like, you know what, it's the middle of the summer, 98 degrees, hasn't rained in 2 weeks, and I am squishing water under my shoes when I walk on your yard. I mean, what is going on here? I mean, did the builder build your house on top of an underground spring? I mean, what is it? And they say, oh no, well, I don't want my grass to get too dry. I run my sprinkler 30 minutes a day, every day, not, regardless. I just want it to look good and keep it green. And then in my mind, I'm thinking, well, one, I can't cut the grass. I mean, you get the lawnmower on there and you're leaving ruts. So if you get out there, they want you to push it or whatever. Even sometimes you're pushing it, you're leaving ruts. You're leaving ruts with your feet. It's so soft. And two, I'm thinking, potential fungus situation. When you have moisture, it can cause, be an environment where a fungus is more likely to grow. There's particular weeds that really thrive in a moist environment. I think of when I see a particular weed that I deal with a lot, it's called Kalinga. It's typically in where the ground stays moist, whether it's from a drainage problem or just somebody watering too much. So, but if the customer is, like I said, they paid thousands of dollars for irrigation, they know they're right and they don't want to, be told otherwise. So, so what do you do in those situations? To me, and I have one, this is the other day, so I'm talking to a lady. I'm giving her a quote on spraying the weeds, and she said, yeah, she was wanting a recommendation for somebody to cut the grass. So I gave her a name. She said, no, she said, oh, no, they came out a few weeks ago and cut the grass, and she said, it was like 3 days later, the weeds had already grown back. And, she had tons of weeds. And she said, I called them, basically she had called them, telling them how fast the weeds had grown back, wanting them to come back, I guess, cut it again, or, for free. I mean, it was like, hey, you didn't do it right. Look how fast the weeds grew back, and I, again, what do you do in these situations? Well, let's start with what you don't do. You don't say you're an idiot and you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, don't say that. If you feel like you're about to say that, walk to the truck, pretend like you've got a phone call, make a phone call, calm yourself down and come back and think of, when you regroup. But don't say that, because that cannot go over well. You don't say, I've been doing lawns for X and X number of years, and I've forgotten more about lawn care than you'll ever know. Don't say that. That will also not go over well. So what do you say? Well, I think you approach it like this in a situation, and there's a number of examples where this might come up, but you might say something like, one, you want the customer to know that you hear their concern or whatever the problem is. So this sort of, and I'm no master communicator, but maybe can acknowledge what they're saying. So ma'am, you're saying that the weeds are back in I'm just make sure I understand you. The weeds had already grown back in 3 days. Is that, and that was unsatisfactory to you that they grew back so fast. Is that the problem? And she, absolutely. When I pay somebody to cut the grass, I don't want them, 3 days later looking so bad. So you acknowledge the problem. Okay, then you might even acknowledge their solution. The guy who wants you cutting it real short in the summer. So you say, so you think, let me make sure I understand. You think you want me to cut it real low? If I cut the grass down to 1 inch, and that'll keep it low, and then those weeds won't, you think. Anyway, maybe don't acknowledge the solution, because that's not sounding right. You're going to make them sound like an idiot when you start explaining what they want you to do. But what you can do is say something like this. You say, okay, I understand your concern, ma'am. I understand that the weeds are a problem and you don't want that, coming back. Or I understand that you want your grass looking green, so you really like running your irrigation system. But let me make a recommendation to you. And I'd say it like this. Say, why don't we try it my way this time? Okay, let's give it a few weeks trying it my way. And then let's just see how it does. And if you don't feel like after a few weeks that the results are better, then we can talk about some of the other options. So then you can present your solution. So for the irrigation guy, and then there's different watering in different environments, but here we try to recommend that they water less often but for longer periods of time. So I might say something like, let me suggest maybe instead of watering it every day, maybe just turn it on for 1 or 2 days a week for 45 minutes per zone and get a good soaking so that we can get some good deep root growth. And I think that'll be better, and if you guys coming to cut the grass on Thursday morning, then don't water it Wednesday night if you would. I'd maybe water it on Friday after he's cut. And so you sort of present your side and you say, let's try that a little bit and see if that helps out with this problem that you've been dealing with. Or the lady that's having the weeds grow back in 3 days, you say, I understand your concerns with the weed. Sometimes, if or somebody wants you to cut it real short, you say, sometimes cutting it real short can cause further damage to the actual turf that we're trying to get to grow. And those weeds are going to recover a lot faster than the grass will. So I don't want to take too much of the grass off when I cut it. So maybe we could try a couple things. One, we could try cutting it a little more often. And I understand there's an expense there, or you might look into having something done about the weeds, because you've got a lot of grass here, and I think it could be a really nice yard if we were able to get rid of the weeds in the yard. So you sort of present that solution, and at that point, if they're not willing to listen to you, it's kind of like that old adage: if somebody wants a blue suit, you sell them a blue suit. I don't know what to do, to be honest with you. If somebody wants you to scalp the yard in the middle of summer, and they think that's going to look, keep the weeds down, you do it, and then their yard's brown. It takes it a month before it turns green again, and then they might turn around and blame you. So I wouldn't do anything that's going to compromise you and just say, all right, you want me to scalp it, I'll scalp it. I probably wouldn't do that. I would say, ma'am, I've been doing this for a long time, and I know that is not going to be the answer for your lawn, and so I'm hesitant to do that. because I know that it's going to look really bad, and those weeds are going to still come back, but your grass is going to really struggle if we take it down as low as you want to. So I'm afraid if you're insistent on that's what we're going to have to do, then I'm going to have to decline. I'm going to maybe ask you to, find a different lawn care provider. So don't compromise yourself. If you get in a situation where they ask you and put you in a tough spot and you just don't know the answer, sometimes you just have to say, I honestly don't know what to do in this situation, but would you mind if I make a phone call? I've got a friend that's got a lot of experience, and if I give him a call, I believe he'd be able to help. And I'm sorry, I wish I knew the answer right now, but if you'll give me 5 minutes to make a phone call, I believe we could come up with a good solution. So sometimes you have to humble yourself and just admit, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer right now, but I'll definitely work hard to find you an answer. So anyway, hope this is some helpful content. If you've got a situation you want to leave in the comments where somebody's asked you to do something and how you handled it, I'd love to hear from you. If you hadn't subscribed, go ahead and click the subscribe button, click the bell beside the subscribe button so you'll be notified of any new videos. But anyway, hope to produce a lot more content in the weeks to come. Thanks a lot.